Today we will be looking at a different kind of loop. This loop is called a while-when loop. It's another kind of indefinite loop, and there is no Scratch counterpart. Okay, it doesn't exist in Scratch. Scratch only does do until. Okay, so in Liberty Basic you have do until, like you do this stuff until something happens. While means do this loop while something is true. It's the opposite of until. And we end, I'm going to explain, just listen. Loop is the ending for a do loop until. The ending for a while is when. Okay, that's the word that they use. They use
while plus and gets together.
Yes, it is.
See, I'm smart.
It's when. All right, so the while when is used when you do not want a loop to perform at least once. You will remember that do until loops at least once, right? It does all this stuff until, and then it checks at the bottom. So basically the difference is that the until checks at the bottom, the while checks at the top. Okay? So it may not execute at all. It loops while a condition is true. The other one loops until the condition is true. Use for next when you know how long to loop for. Use while when it is unknown or it changes each time the program is run. So you have two choices. Most kids prefer the until, mainly because they've got it Scratch, but there are some situations when while just makes more sense. Okay? Example, suppose someone wants to run a budget program. They're allowed to keep entering values to subtract from the budget amount while the budget amount is greater than 0. How would we do it until? Well, we would do it until the budget amount is less than or equal to 0. Right? Usually you can use until or while. They're just opposites of each other. But sometimes the while is better. Okay? Most kids would disagree. Here's a sample run. Budget amount, $100. Enter item 1 is $220, $40, $50. Too much, you've overspent your budget. Because $20, you'd have 80 left, right? 40, you'd have 40 left. If you subtracted 50, you're over. Okay? So doing while the budget amount is greater than 0. Here's the pseudocode for that. Get the budget amount, item number is equal to 1. While the budget amount is greater than 0, then get the item value and decrease the budget amount by the item value. And then when is the loop stopper, right? Goes back to there. And then display the over budget statement. This would assume that you're going to eventually go over budget, right? Kind of a useless little program, but it gives you an idea of what we're talking about. Okay? Here's the code for it. Input. What is your budget amount? Call that budget amount. This should be a little bit wider, yes? That budget amount should go up there, shouldn't it? Item equals 1, while budget amount is greater than 0. So just like a do until, just like in Scratch where you got those little hexagon things, right, where you got something greater than something, same idea here. While budget amount is greater than 0. Notice the indentation. Print the item number, input the item value, do your accumulator thing on the budget amount equals budget amount minus the value, and bump up your item value using another accumulator. When, again, is the ending of the while loop. Okay, so that's sort of a quick example. Okay, this is extremely important. If you haven't been paying attention up to now, you need to start paying attention. This is extremely important. You need to what's called prime the loop. When you use a do until, right, you've got do blah, 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 until. There's always going to be something to check at the bottom. When you use a while, you have to what we call prime the loop, okay? When you start your lawnmower or your snowblower or some other kind of engine, you generally have to prime it. What does that mean? Anybody know? You got to give it a little bit of gas to start with, right? In the old days, before fuel injection, you had to give it a little bit of gas. You had to put your foot on the gas. You don't do that now, right? It does it automatically for you. But you got to give that engine a little bit of gas. Same thing with a while loop. You have to prime the loop. You have to give it something to check. So because Emma, while loop checks its condition at the top, the variable it is checking must have a value before the while. You have to give it something to check. This is known as priming the loop. How many people, hands up, think I might ask a question just like that on the test? And if you don't have your hand up, you're foolish. Let that be a hint. Okay? I've put it in red right here. This is called priming the loop. What is your budget amount? Item equals 1. While budget amount is equal to 0. You have to have an input or something. This value has to have, this variable has to have some value before you can check it. If you don't have this, then what's the budget amount going to be? Equal to 0, and it's not going to do any of the loop. Okay? So the general rule is, okay, inside the loop, the variable must be changed somehow. So we primed it with budget amount here with this input, and then inside the loop, you're going to change it. So there's always two parts. Okay? Always two parts. Do I have that on my next slide? No, I don't. There's always two parts to the loop. There's the priming part before the loop. There's the priming part before the loop. And then it's generally the last line. If it's not the last line, it's the second last line. Budget amount equals budget amount minus item value. That's what we're going to check when we go back up. These two lines could be reversed, couldn't they, right? Like item equals item plus 1 and budget amount equals budget amount minus item value. They could be in the opposite order. Okay, so you always have to have something before the loop, something at the bottom of the loop. Okay, so your practice assignment is to change your hand in for lesson 7 and change it to use a while when. So rather than do loop until guess equals number, how do you change that to a while? You would go while guess is not equal. And how many people know how to do not equal? Not equal is less than and greater than. That's not equal. While guess is not equal to number. Okay? Remember, when you use a while, you're going to have to prime it. So you're going to need an input up here. You're going to need an input guess up there. And you're going to need at the bottom here where the when is, you're going to have another input for your next guess. Okay? You're going to need two inputs. One before the loop, one at the bottom of the loop. Okay? That's your practice one that I'll help you on. And an or we should talk about. And and or can be used with if, while, or until statements, just like in Scratch. Okay? If x equals 5 and y equals 10, that means that they both have to be true before it executes. If x equals 5 or y equals 10, well then that will work if either one, just like in Scratch. You'll notice that you have to say if x equals 5, you have to have a variable there and a variable there, even if it's the same one. You can't say if x equals 5 and 6. Well, how could x equal 5 and 6, right? You couldn't say if x equals 5 or 6. You have to say x equals 5 or x equals 6. You have to have a variable. Okay? Hand in number 8. Quinn, why is your laptop open? And James, and Emma, and others.
Oh, not the first one.
Hand in number 8. Write a program that allows the user to input a 3-digit number as a code or password to open the door. Use while when to allow the user to guess up to 5 times. Just like when you go to the bank machine, you only get 5 chances, right? Or 3 chances or whatever. After that, it locks out the user. Use the code 638. Okay, that is the code. I'm giving you the code. Be sure to prime it and then to change the loop variable. So it's just a little password program that allows you to go through if you enter the code 638. Okay, using the while when. That is your hand in number 8. Here's what the sample, here's what it should look like. What's the passcode? 333. No, incorrect. You have 4 guesses left. Passcode 123. No, 3 guesses left. Passcode 638. You may proceed.
The first one is.
Why not? Okay, that is hand in 8. That is all the lessons for Unit 1. Once we're finished 1 to 8, then you can start the final project, the Blackjack project, okay? I'm going to give you tomorrow to work. I'll probably give you Monday to work. I may hand out the project Monday, and people can start on that. Some of you need to do some work. Download Liberty Basic at home, okay? Get in here at lunch. Some of you need to get caught up. Enjoy.